Hello, everybody, and welcome to World War II Explained. Please subscribe to the channel for regular content on the basis on fact, World War II. July 10th, 1940. Mid-morning over the white cliffs of Dover. The sky is a brilliant, merciless blue, the kind that makes the sea below look like hammered steel. High above the English Channel, a lone RAF Spitfire Mark I banks hard left, its Merlin engine snarling as the pilot, 22-year-old pilot officer John Paddy Mayle of No. 54 Squadron, spots the glint of metal far to the southeast. A moment later, the horizon darkens. 80-plus Dornier Doe 17s in tight formation, escorted by Messerschmitt Bf 109s riding shotgun. The first wave of Adlertag, Eagle Day, has begun. You can almost feel the sudden tightness in the cockpit, the oxygen mask pressing against sweat-slicked skin, the heart hammering against ribs as the call goes out over the RT. Bandits, bandits, Angels 1-5, Doder sector. Tally-ho! Hitler had expected Britain to sue for peace after France collapsed. He offered terms in a July 19th Reichstag speech, generous, he thought, demanding only that Britain recognize German dominance on the continent. Churchill's reply, broadcast the same evening, was short and searing. "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender." The Führer, furious, authorized Directive No. 16, Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain. But first, the Luftwaffe had to win air superiority. Hermann Göring, Reichsmarschall and head of the Luftwaffe, boasted he could destroy the Royal Air Force in 4 weeks. The campaign that followed would prove him catastrophically wrong. The Battle of Britain unfolded in 4 distinct phases, each more desperate than the last. Phase 1, July 10th to August 12th, targeted Channel shipping and coastal convoys. German bombers tried to strangle Britain's supply lines, while the Luftwaffe probed RAF defenses. RAF Fighter Command under Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding refused to be drawn into large-scale dogfights. Instead, radar stations along the south coast, Chain Home, gave precious minutes of warning. Controllers at sector stations vectored squadrons into intercept positions with calm, clipped voices. Red Section, Vector 190, Angels 1-2, Bandits many. The young pilots, many barely out of school, scrambled again and again, sometimes 3 or 4 sorties a day. By mid-August, Göring shifted focus. Phase 2, August 13th to September 6th, became the battle proper. The Luftwaffe attacked RAF airfields, radar stations, and aircraft factories in the south and southeast. The pressure was immense. At RAF Biggin Hill, ground crews worked under bomb bursts, refueling and rearming Hurricanes while the airfield disintegrated around them. Pilots lived on nerves and black tea. The casualty rate was brutal. 1 in 6 RAF fighter pilots killed or seriously wounded in the first month. Yet the Germans underestimated 2 things: the resilience of Dowding's carefully conserved fighter force and the extraordinary performance of the Spitfire and Hurricane. The Messerschmitt Bf 109E was faster in a dive and better at high altitude, but the Spitfire turned tighter and the Hurricane was rugged, able to absorb punishment that would kill a 109. British pilots flew with the Channel at their backs. Every bailout over land meant a chance to fight again. German pilots who went down over England became prisoners. The Luftwaffe's intelligence was also shockingly poor. They believed Fighter Command was down to its last 200 to 300 aircraft, when in reality, Dowding still had over 700 fighters operational by late August. Then came the turning moment. On August 25th to 26th, stray German bombers accidentally hit central London, first civilian bombing of the capital. Churchill ordered immediate retaliation. The next night, 80 RAF bombers struck Berlin. The damage was light, but the psychological impact was enormous. Hitler flew into a rage. Göring, humiliated, convinced the Führer to switch targets. On September 7th, Phase 3 began, the Blitz. Massive daylight raids on London itself. That Saturday afternoon, nearly 1,000 aircraft darkened the sky over the East End. Docklands exploded in flame.
Timber yards, sugar warehouses, oil tanks. The fires burned for days, visible from 50 miles away. Londoners sheltered in underground stations, sang, played cards, slept on platforms. The Luftwaffe believed they had finally broken fighter command's back. They were wrong. RAF squadrons, many reduced to a handful of serviceable aircraft, rose again and again. September 15th, Battle of Britain Day, saw the decisive clash. Over 1,000 German aircraft attacked in two massive waves. Fighter command threw everything into the air. 300-plus sorties. Pilots fought until ammunition was gone, then landed, rearmed, and took off again. By evening, the Luftwaffe had lost 56 aircraft to Fighter Command's 26. The myth of German invincibility cracked. Hitler postponed Sea Lion indefinitely on September 17th. The invasion barges rotted in Channel ports. The Luftwaffe switched to night bombing, the Blitz proper, killing over 40,000 civilians by May 1941. But the strategic goal had failed. Britain remained unconquered, the first major check to Hitler's ambitions. In the Führer's headquarters, the mood darkened. The easy victories were over. Britain's survival meant the war would not be short, and in the East, the real obsession stirred once more: the Soviet Union. The Luftwaffe had lost nearly 1,900 aircraft. Fighter Command had lost about 1,500, but could replace them faster. The balance of power had shifted. Hitler now needed a new plan, one that would secure the resources to fight a long war.
June 22, 1941, 3:15 a.m. Along the entire 1,800-mile frontier from the Baltic to the Black Sea, the night is warm, almost sultry, the kind of stillness that makes every sound feel amplified. Then, without warning, the horizon ignites. Thousands of artillery pieces roar in unison. German 15-centimeter SFH-18 howitzers, Soviet 122-millimeter guns answering seconds later. Searchlights stab upward, silhouetting the first waves of Junkers U-88s and Heinkel He-111s lifting off towards Soviet airfields. Panzer engines cough to life, tracks grinding forward across the border. Operation Barbarossa has begun, the largest land invasion in human history. You can almost smell the cordite and hot oil, feel the ground shudder as 3 million men, 3,600 tanks, and over 2,500 aircraft surge eastward. Hitler has finally turned to face the obsession that haunted him since Mein Kampf, the destruction of Bolshevism and the conquest of Lebensraum. The decision had crystallized in the summer of 1940, even as the Luftwaffe still bombed London. Britain's refusal to surrender forced Hitler to confront the two-front war he had always dreaded. Yet he believed time was on the side of the Soviets. Stalin was rearming at terrifying speed. The Red Army was expanding from 1.5 million men in 1939 to nearly 5 million by mid-1941. Intelligence reports, many wildly inaccurate, suggested Soviet armor and aircraft were modernizing fast. Hitler feared that if he waited, the USSR would grow too strong to defeat. Better to strike now, while Germany was at the height of its power and the Red Army was still recovering from Stalin's purges. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of August 1939 had bought time. 2 years of uneasy peace, during which Germany received Soviet oil, grain, and manganese, while Stalin absorbed the Baltic states, eastern Poland, and Bessarabia. But the pact was always temporary. In November 1940, Molotov visited Berlin to discuss a possible alliance against Britain. Hitler offered India as future Soviet spoils. Molotov demanded guarantees for Bulgaria and control of the Turkish Straits. The Führer was insulted. The talks collapsed. From that moment, the invasion became inevitable. Planning was meticulous and ruthless. Directive No. 21, issued December 18, 1940, outlined the campaign. 3 army groups: North, Lieb to Leningrad; Center, Bach to Moscow; South, Rundstedt to Kiev and the Dnieper. The goal was not merely occupation, but annihilation.
Destroy the Red Army west of the Dnieper, seize European Russia's resources, and reduce the Slavic population to serfdom or starvation. Generalplan Ost, the secret blueprint for the East, called for the murder or expulsion of tens of millions. The Einsatzgruppen would follow the Wehrmacht, liquidating Jews, communists, and undesirables as they went. At first, it seemed unstoppable. On the opening day alone, the Luftwaffe destroyed over 1,200 Soviet aircraft, most on the ground, achieving air supremacy almost instantly. Panzer groups sliced through disorganized Soviet defenses. By July 3rd, Army Group Center had advanced 200 miles, capturing Minsk and trapping nearly 300,000 Soviet soldiers in the Bialystok-Minsk pocket. Guderian's panzers raced on, encircling another 300,000 at Smolensk by mid-July. The Wehrmacht's blitzkrieg tactics, deep penetrations, encirclements, rapid exploitation worked with devastating effect against an enemy still reeling from Stalin's orders not to provoke the Germans. Yet the first cracks appeared early. The sheer scale of the theater was overwhelming. Roads turned to mud with the first summer rains, supply lines stretched to breaking point. German troops marched 20 to 30 miles a day with full kit. Horses, over 600,000, died by the thousands from exhaustion and disease. The Red Army, despite catastrophic losses, refused to collapse. Stalin's not one step back orders turned retreats into bloodbaths, but also bought time. Fresh divisions appeared from the Urals and Siberia, divisions the Germans had not known existed. By late August, the debate in the Wolf's Lair grew bitter. Guderian and many generals urged an immediate drive on Moscow before the autumn rains. Hitler, however, fixated on economic targets. He diverted Army Group Center's panzers south to support Rundstedt's encirclement at Kiev. The decision was militarily brilliant. Over 600,000 Soviet troops were captured in the greatest encirclement in history, but strategically disastrous. Precious weeks were lost. When the panzers finally turned north again in October, the weather had turned. Operation Typhoon began October 2nd, the final push for Moscow. Panzer spearheads reached within 60 miles of the capital. Then the Rasputitsa, the autumn mud season, struck. Tanks bogged down axle deep. Supply trucks sunk to their chassis. German soldiers, still in summer uniforms, began to shiver as temperatures dropped. On November 7th, Stalin held his famous Red Square parade, soldiers marching straight from the front to the trains bound for Moscow. The message was clear. The Soviet Union would not surrender. December 5th. The temperature falls to negative 30 degrees Celsius, negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Frostbite claims thousands. Soviet counterattacks begin. Fresh Siberian divisions, equipped for winter, slam into German exhausted lines. General Georgy Zhukov, newly appointed to command the Moscow front, unleashes the counteroffensive. German troops ordered to hold at all costs are pushed back 50 to 150 miles. For the first time, the Wehrmacht retreats. The myth of German invincibility shatters. Hitler's gamble had failed to knock the Soviet Union out in a single campaign. The war had become a long, grinding struggle, one for which Germany was not prepared.